Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees for the Village of Burr Ridge. It is May 22nd. Our first order of business, of course, is the Pledge of Allegiance, and today we are going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Keith Chasson. He's a fifth grader from Gower Middle School. His favorite subjects are science and phys ed. He enjoys playing basketball. Looking forward to vacationing in Michigan this summer. His mother and father are with us today. It's Petra and Eric, and I believe brother's name is Lucas. Is that close? All right. Okay, now Keith, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? You can pick a flag. Big one works. Ready? Yep. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Karen, may I have roll call, please?
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Model.
Here.
Trustee Pavesa.
Here.
Trustee Mitel.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Here.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Mayor Straub.
Here. And next section is for residents' comments. Are there any residents that would like to address the board at this time? Okay, yes, sir. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you have to come to the microphone, introduce yourself, and mention your topic. Yes.
My name is Mike Sidlecki. I'm a business owner and building owner on 83rd Street. It's 16 West, 401 83rd Street. And I'm here to voice a disagreement or objection to the proposed auto sales building, which would be 2 doors down from mine. The commercial area does not have any retail in it as of yet. This special use zoning could be a precedent that would unintentionally draw more retail into the area if it was to be passed. Examples of that might be someone might want to start a furniture store and have outside furniture displayed, that type of thing. So you have to be conscious of what door we're opening for what purpose. Auto sales on that particular street, I would think, would be a kind of a detriment to the area, considering that's a west entrance to a major residential area of Burr Ridge. So I can go on and on and on in regards to what I don't think it's a proper use for a special approval of zoning difference in that immediate area. If it is allowed, I hope that you really consider not allowing them to have outside sales. And if you do approve the interior sales, that you have a real strong law or some type of way to govern them if they happen to start encroaching on sales outside. And that's about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone else like to address the board? Yes, sir.
My name is Al Petkus. I'd like to make a comment regarding the used car lot as well. Is there going to be open for comments after that item comes up, or are they made to be made now?
You could wait till then.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, would like to move the consent agenda.
Mayor, point of order. I have a question for the gentleman that spoke. Is your concern the retail sales in general in the area or the outside sales?
Well, outside sales primarily, and retail on that particular street. For the simple fact, then you have to start laying out some governing laws on what type of exposure the retail would have for marketing their products, from auto down to furniture. I feel that once you open the box, it's hard to close the box. So that's just my thought on that. We don't have any retail on 83rd
My question was specific if your concern was to the outside, and it sounds like it's really the outside sales that you're mostly concerned with.
Excuse me, Mike, if we really need to be at the microphone, though I actually, no, tell you what, could you wait until the topic, and then if there's any more topics, then he can ask then, and then we'll do it then. Thank you. Okay. We're moving to the consent agenda now, or otherwise known as the omnibus votes. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless the board members or citizens so requests, in which event the item will be removed. Under minutes, we have 5A, approval of regular board meeting of May 8th, 2017. B, receive and file draft stormwater management meeting of May 9th, 2017. C, receive and file draft plan commission of May 15th, 2017. And D, receive and file draft economic development committee meeting of May 16th, 2017. Under ordinances, we have 6B, approval of an ordinance granting a variation from the Village of Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to permit the expansion of a parking lot in the corner of side front yards V01 2017, otherwise known as 1333 Burr Ridge Parkway, Insight Real Estate. Resolutions, there are none. Under considerations, we have 8D, approval of recommendation to award contract for 2017-18 bulk rock salt purchase. E, approval of recommendation to purchase 5 Stalker DSR radar units and associated hardware. 8F, approval of recommendation to purchase 7 AR-15 carbines and associated equipment. G, approval of fiscal year 16-17 vendor list in the amount of $399,850.13 for all funds, which includes special expenditures of $28,750 to DuPage overhead garage door to replace Public Works garage door, $26,810.01 to Treasurer State of Illinois for Garfield lap construction costs, and $25,192 to HD Supply Waterworks Limited for census water meters and equipment. H, approval of fiscal year 17-18 vendor list in the amount of $212,505.89 for all funds, plus $263,449.32 for payroll, for a grand total of $475,955.21, which includes special expenditures of $61,502 to Curry Motors for a 2017 Ford all-wheel drive utility interceptor police vehicle in Police Vehicles Fund, $31,752 to Curry Motors for a 2017 Ford all-wheel drive utility interceptor police vehicle and equipment replacement fund, and $51,931.25 to U.S. Bank for 2012 debt certificate series interests. May I have a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? That's 5A, B, C, and D. Ordinances 6B. Considerations 8D, E, F, G, and H.
So moved.
Second. Aye.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Scalpa.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Martell.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Model.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
6-0.
Okay, we're moving on to ordinances, 6A. Steve?
Yes, I hope everyone received my email today. 6A. Regarding the fact that we received bids and open bids today for the $6,040,000 refunding debt certificates, Series 2017. We received 6 bids. The low bid was from Hutchinson, Shockey, Early and Company, in an amount of 1.9307%, which was much lower than we originally anticipated. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I want to introduce Dan Forbes of Spear Financial, who helped us through this process, and he is going to give us the highlights. So Dan?
I'll be very brief. It's good to see you all again, and especially Steve, and wish him well and all. The sale went extremely well. A couple things I do want to mention, and I'll be seated. Well, number one, the debt certificates this time around, actually, were upgraded. The city carries a AA1 rating, which is one of the highest rating categories for its property tax supported debt. The debt certificates are backed by the general obligation of the village, but there's no specific property tax behind it. This time around, Moody's looked at that and said, look, because the village is so well managed and all, we'll give the same equivalent rating. Last time around, it was a step down, which is typical of most issuances of securities, debt certificates versus GOs. So your rating was higher. You got twice as many bids. As Steve mentioned, the planning model had this at about, well, we put it in at 275. We're always a little conservative just to make sure. I thought maybe we were 25 basis points high. As it turned out, we were better than 80-some basis points. And the market has been improving, but I do think the village this time around is viewed very favorably. There is attached to our summary packet, the Moody's report. It has wonderful things to say about the financial management of the village. And I do want to tell you that Jerry Sapp did a tremendous job on the call with the rating agencies. He is a pro at this, and he really did a great job. So thank you for hiring Spear. We always appreciate it. And best wishes to Steve, and I'm here to answer any questions. You guys really did wonderfully in the market today.
Again, we should mention that, I should have mentioned early on, this is for our police department debt. It's a 5-year note. We have money set aside in our debt service fund to cover the majority of the cost of the interest. And at 2.75%, we thought it would cost us around $168,000. 110 would come from the interest on the existing equity, and 58,000 would have to come from the general fund. Now, with this lower interest rate, we only will need to transfer about $9,000 or so from the general fund to cover the debt.
Great.
So that works out very, very well, and we're, I think, very pleased with this. This is the time that we needed to refund the debt, and these prices include all the issuance costs associated with this program and process. So I think this is an excellent result, and I think we've been instructed that the village clerk should read the ordinance and the title of the ordinance, and then I would ask for a motion to approve. The motion, or the ordinance that you were presented in your packet, obviously had blanks in it. These blanks will be filling in using the numbers that we just discussed. Anyone happy to answer any questions? Yes.
What's our current rates?
1.7.
It is 1.75 for the coupon rate. These are at a 2% coupon rate, but if you look at what the 5-year Treasury was back in 2012, it was about 0.86, and now the 5-year Treasury is a 1.79. So you're about 100 basis points up on the 5-year Treasury, but you're only up a quarter when it comes to the interest rate. So it did, kudos to you on the timing too, to Steve and Jerry, to choose to go in the market now. Heaven knows what might happen tomorrow. So great planning.
An ordinance of the Village of Burr Ridge, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois, authorizing and providing for the issue of 5,970,000 refunding debt certificates, Series 2017, evidencing the rights to payment under an installment purchase agreement and providing for the security for and means of payment under the agreement for the certificates, and providing for the sale of the certificates to Hutchinson, Shockey, Early and Company.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? Trustee Francis?
I heard Mr. Forbes say several times about a well-managed village. This is a great testimony to our village staff, how efficient and lean that they operate this village. Our residents are blessed as a result of this. This is just something else that results in the well-managed village results in lower bond rating, higher bond rating, which results in lower interest rates for all of our residents. So an indirect benefit from a well-managed village. I thank staff for that.
Okay. Anything else? Trustee Scapa?
I'd also like to thank staff, Steve and Jerry. I mean, we got the second highest rating for our debt, and that's because of this management and leadership. So thank you again, and it really does wonders for our village. Thank you.
And I'd be remiss, I'm a new trustee, but I'd be remiss in not thanking previous trustees and the village administration, not just the staff, but the trustees who manage the village in a fiscally prudent manner. And again, everybody worked together. We've made smart choices over the years, and we're being rewarded for it now.
Any other discussion? There's a motion and a second. And a roll call, please.
Trustee Manal?
Yes.
Trustee Mattel?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Chiarapa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
6-0.
Okay, now we move on to 8A, consideration of Plan Commission recommendation to approve special use for indoor automotive sales and to deny special use for outside display of automobiles at Z06 2017, located at 16 West 260 83rd Street. Okay.
You have two recommendations before you from the Plan Commission. The first is to they are recommending denial of a special use request for outside storage and display of automobiles at 16 W 260 83rd Street. They are concurrently recommending approval of a special use request for indoor automobile sales for the same property, subject to several conditions. There were several residents and nearby property owners present at the hearing. They generally objected to the use of the property for automobile sales, stating that the use was not consistent with the character of the area. The Plan Commission concluded that the use of the property for indoor automobile sales is appropriate if properly regulated. They believe that the appropriate regulations included the prohibition of outside display, a limit on the hours of operation, and a prohibition on servicing of vehicles except for routine maintenance of vehicles for sales, and finally that establishing limits on the value of automobiles sold from the property. That last condition is a reiteration of a condition that was imposed on Global Luxury Imports at 101 Tower Drive. Global Luxury Imports was granted a 2-year special use with that condition, ostensibly to show whether that they are indeed what they said they were, a luxury automobile dealership. Their special use will come back for reconsideration this summer. It is anticipated that at that time they will ask that that value condition be eliminated from their special use, although I cannot speak for the business itself. We are suggesting, staff is suggesting that the board provide direction on whether or not that condition should be imposed on this particular business. The village has approved special uses for other automobile dealerships without the value condition, specifically within this same Hinsdale Industrial Park at 60 Shore Drive. 2 automobile dealerships exist there. 3 have been approved over the years, and none of those had the value minimums added to their business. When asked the reason for the Plan Commission's recommendation to include that condition, they stated that it was due to the fact that they believed 83rd Street was similar to County Line Road in that it is an entryway into the village as opposed to South Frontage Road. Commissioner Broline is here as the official representative of the Plan Commission, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Trustees, any questions of Doug? No questions?
Well, what you were saying, are we basically, if we approve this, are we, on inside sales, if we approve this, are we putting the same conditions that we put on Global Luxury Imports?
Well, that's what the Plan Commission is recommending. It's up to the board to decide whether or not you believe those same conditions are necessary in this particular case, or whether that was unique to the trial period or to the property on Tower Drive that Global Luxury Imports occupies.
And staff is basically questioning whether it's necessary in this location, especially in light of the fact that we just recently approved the car dealership and didn't impose these restrictions, and it's in the same subdivision that is this one, and it's away from the residential area. I'm assuming that was the main reason why we approved those conditions for Global Luxury Imports. The fact that it was near a residential area and on a main thoroughfare. But again, we wanted to bring that up and see what the board wanted to do.
So it's been largely positive at Global Luxury Imports, right? We've not had a lot of issues or complaints about their vehicle sales or anything. And has it been onerous for them to comply with that reporting requirement of their sales and stuff? You know, I'm always cognizant about putting more restrictions on businesses.
It's been difficult at times to get the numbers from them. Obviously, it's not the top of their priority list of things to do, but they have provided the numbers, and they have shown full compliance, far exceeding the minimums in every situation. I think it's safe to say, though, as I said before, that that they will likely be asking that condition be waived, in the sense that they feel like they've proven themselves as a good business resident of the village. But they have complied, and they've provided us with the numbers.
Also, have we missed out on any other opportunities to have businesses, tax-paying businesses in the village because of these types of restrictions, or this perception that the village is difficult to perhaps have a dealership or that type of business in?
Well, have we missed
I think it's on the
any?
contrary, that we've entertained these used car dealerships where other villages don't even allow them. For example, Countryside or Hinsdale don't allow used car dealerships, standalone used car dealerships. Here we're allowing them in. So we've accepted these businesses with certain restrictions to protect the nearby residents.
Trustee Baveza?
I do remember when the global luxury import person came before the board, he said at times he thought it would be difficult because just like any business cycles goes up and down, you know. And like you said, it looks like they are abiding by the agreement. As far as this one goes, my initial idea is to go along with the inside, but not the outside. We haven't allowed it at any other time, so I can't see why we would allow it now.
When you say the service, just like the bare and bones minimum service to get the cars in and out, there's no like major repairs going to be done at this location whatsoever.
Right. The condition would allow them to do routine maintenance to prepare a vehicle for sale.
But everything else goes off-site.
Right.
And then what about like driving them around? Would that be a concern? Would they be driven on 83rd Street?
The question was asked at the public hearing where they would test drive cars. The petitioner testified that they would be on 83rd Street and Route 83 primarily.
Because there's a big difference between this location and Global Imports, because that is right by I-55. There's plenty of room, and the residential areas are pretty far away from there. Whereas this location is right in the subdivision, right next to it, very close. And there are
Actually, on the contrary, this one's much further away from the actual residences. The Global Luxury Imports is a couple hundred yards from the condominiums.
Oh, okay.
And this one is the third building from frontage road. Geographically, just to clarify, it's a third building from the Route 83.
All right.
So and between there you have, I don't know, 10, 12 different buildings. You have a nuclear testing plant. You have the gymnastics
Facility.
organization.
Dog park.
You have a bank, et cetera, between those.
Aren't there some other car dealers on Frontage Road kind of behind them as well?
Yeah, there are two other ones, as were mentioned. There was one that just went out of business. It just was taken over by a new company. Also, Corvette Mike's is in the same industrial park.
Yeah, just on the other side.
As the other one is. Yeah, so this one is perhaps it's not exactly County Line Road, but it's becoming more of a thoroughfare, into the village. That's one thought that was a concern. It is as the Planning Commission recommended, it was inside sales only and inside display as well. So.
Are you looking for a motion at this time, or entertaining a motion?
Actually, no. I want discussion first.
Yes, is the petitioner here tonight? I had some questions for the petitioner.
Yes, there is. Yes. Can you please come to the microphone?
Your name, please.
My name is Awad O'Day, and we are the petitioners. My brother and I plan on opening the dealership.
Okay, thank you. I was reading your business plan and a couple questions on it. You mentioned that you're going to be fitting these vehicles with custom wheels and tires, electronic equipment such as audio systems, window tinting, et cetera. Would that be done at this site or off-site somewhere else?
No, a majority of the work that we do, the customization would be done at a contractor that we work with off-site.
Off-site at some contractor's facility?
Yes.
And then they bring it back to your site?
In order to have the equipment to lift the vehicle, to install tires and wheels and things like that, would take up a lot of space of the building itself, which is already planned on being used for car storage, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
And you also mentioned in your business plan another location on North Avenue in Villa Park. Is that your corporate headquarters?
Yes, well, that's our first location. I wouldn't say corporate headquarters for this location. Is a separate business, which we actually have a partner in as well, who actually resides in Burr Ridge. He's an anesthesiologist who is pretty much a silent partner, and we're doing this business together. The other dealership is ours, so this would be our second location.
Understood.
Right.
So I guess there's a question then about sales tax. If a vehicle is sold here to an Illinois resident or a DuPage County resident, is the sales tax paid in Villa Park, or is it paid here?
No, it's completely in Burr Ridge. So it's totally separate entities.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Thank you. You answered my question.
You're welcome. No problem.
Trustee Model, do you have any questions?
No, I have no further questions, but I would like to make a motion if you're willing to entertain it at
Well, we
this
should
time.
probably hear from the residents first.
Well, we have a motion in a second, and then go
No, you
go
had
to discussion.
the gentleman wanted to speak.
We're going to have discussion after we have a motion in a second.
You should listen to that. Change your mind.
Any other trustees have any questions? Discussion. There's been a motion. Do we want it?
Well, I would be willing to, if there's more resident comments, I
That's fine.
can certainly wait.
Okay, we have two people in the audience that would like to address this, or one person at least. One person already has. Do you have anything?
I have nothing more to really add.
Thank you. My name is Al Petkus. I've been a resident since 1985, and I live at 5 Region Court in Burr Ridge. I'm pro-business, and I like the proposal that the gentleman offered as far as having a internet car sales here. I'm in pro of having indoor storage and indoor sales of cars. I'm against having outdoor sales, outdoor storage, and storage for trade-ins. I mean, they're talking about in the Plan Commission meeting of talking about cars of luxury cars, which is to be determined. And it sounds like an interesting business model, but keep in mind that whatever car they're going to take as trade-in is going to be of probably lower value or of somewhat different guise of the cars that they're selling. And I would just think that in a nice business district, that even driving by it, the neighbor next to them to the west, when I saw that building go for sale, put a lot of money into the frontage and basically put a lot of brickwork in and nice ornate stuff to improve the property. Mike Selecki's always kept his property very clean and all that. And so, like I said, I'm pro-business. I'm for the sales of luxury automobiles on an inside basis only. But I think that my wife and I oppose having used cars parked out there that I heard in the Plan Commission meeting could sit there where the more higher priced cars would be inside and of course protected from the weather. But then the other cars, if they weren't so, would be turned to auction. Well, auctions happen, I don't know how often, once a week, once a month, or whatever. So you're going to basically have buildup of inventory out there that everybody's going to see driving by there. Because I do drive by there as a exit to the West Gateway and also an entryway off of 83. And obviously with the improvements in the gateways all the way around, it's very attractive. So I think, again, for being in business, I'm not against the inside sales of cars and such, but to leave them parked outside continuously and for them to grow and fluctuate back and forth, that my wife and I oppose, and I give you consideration that if you let one in, used car lots, like if you look at Ogden Avenue, Roosevelt, LaGrange Road, you let one in, they're like herd animals. And herd animals like to gather together because there's one there and more go. So indoor sales, fine, just not storage or cars for sale on the outside. So I approve indoor sales, oppose the parking lot issue of storage and sales vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Can I clarify something from Mr. Zlecki? Mike, you opposed outdoor storage, correct?
Well, I oppose the whole
Okay, I wanted to just clarify what you
whole thing, actually, but it sounds like, the board is more entertaining the inside sales. And if that's the direction we go, the only thing I would ask is that you develop some type of stringent law that if they do park outside, they lose some type of fine, something, because I think that everybody runs a business and suggests that they're going to follow this rule this way, and then all of a sudden, a year into it, things get a little laxed. Enforcement gets to be an issue, a big issue, I would think, because who's going to police them? Who's going to find them? You start opening up a box that I think that just piles the village with more regulations and more policing. And I don't know if
On that topic, I'd like to have our village administrator explain a little bit about how those things are enforced and how that happens.
Well, first and foremost, it's on a complaint basis. You're there every day, you'll see it. If you see it, you're gonna call us, right? And if you call us, if you call us, we're gonna be out there and we're gonna be talking to them the same day, and we're gonna be saying, look, you can't be doing this.
But, okay, Steve, just along those same lines, I call, or anyone else along 83rd calls, do they get a slap on the wrist, or is there some type of major penalty?
We can't fine, only a judge can fine.
Okay,
So we'd have to take them to court.
okay.
And we
Well, there
will take them to
go.
court.
That's exactly what I'm leading up
Well,
to.
but
It
we will
gets-
take them to court, and we do take people to court
Okay,
when we're not in compliance.
Okay.
They'll know the rules, and if we see that, we'll take action.
okay. I can understand, I'm just kind of trying to close the barn door before the horse gets out, because that just carries on a tremendous amount of burden to enforce stuff. You don't have, real small issue, I took my own personal van, had it in my lot, put a sign on it for sale. The police stopped, said that's an illegal thing to do, and they could write me a ticket if I didn't want to remove the for sale sign on the car immediately. I said, okay. That was an immediate enforcement. Is there something that you could write into this approval if you do go that direction that would be enforced by the Burr Ridge Police? You know what I mean? Because to just say, oh, we're going to take them to court, it gets bogged down. There's no,
Well,
I'm
you're
playing a devil's advocate.
assuming that they're going to ignore the requirements, and they're just going to snub their nose at us and say, well, we're doing it no matter what, we don't care what you think. I don't think these gentlemen would do that. I mean, they're in business, they understand the rules, they'll follow the rules. They're not neophytes, they have an existing business already.
Okay.
I think they understand what they need to do. Now, again, just like any other business, there's outdoor storage of things that people shouldn't be doing, and we chased after them, and ultimately, we will resolve the problem.
Okay. I'm just trying to lessen the burden, nip it in the bud type of situation, because just FYI, Mother's Day, Global Imports had cars on their lawn displaying their cars all day long on Sunday on Mother's Day. So, there you go.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Sir, do you mind if I offer a clarification on one of the points the gentleman made?
Sure.
Thank you again for the opportunity. So one of the gentlemen mentioned how we'd be taking trade-ins and we'd be displaying them in the lot. Just as a clarification, in the zoning commission meeting last week, we did get asked that question, and we said very clearly that if any car doesn't comply with our own standards of the types of car we plan on selling, we plan on removing it from the lot and not even displaying it, or maybe putting it inside the back of the building or behind the building or something if we do get an outdoor use. If we don't, inside the building in the back or even our other lot. The whole idea about this business was to be completely different than our other business, which is an upscale luxury car dealership in an upscale area. And when we think upscale, you hear Burr Ridge, and that's the first thing that comes to mind, upscale. So that's our mission, our motto, our goal for the business in general. Just to mention a couple other things to kind of give everybody an idea of what our plan is. The street that we're on is by no means an attractive street as far as retail businesses go. Everybody knows that it's an industrial area. It's the type of street that we see semis passing back and forth on daily, all day long. The type of street that you have industrial businesses with employees who park their everyday Joe Schmo cars, be it luxury or Ford or Chevy or pickup trucks or what have you, in the parking lots adjacent to our lot, across the street from our lot, on every lot on that street. I mentioned in last week's zoning commission meeting that every car that we'd be selling would be luxury, and what we mean by luxury means Mercedes, Lexus, and up. Audi, BMW, up to Ferrari, Lamborghini, and you name it. So I did say this not necessarily to kind of offend anybody last week or anything like that, but compare a lot with 20, 30 luxury cars to any other lot on that street any day of the week, and our lot would look a million times nicer. We did not plan by any means on putting those year signs on the vehicles, by putting flags up or balloons or anything like that. If you passed by our lot, our plan was to have cars lined up, and it would look like any other car in any other lot on our street. So I'm not saying this to defend the special use permit outside. If you guys grant us that, I'd be ever more appreciative. But the point is that I just want to clarify that we're not looking to have a sleazy type car sales business like on Western Avenue or even something like on Ogden Avenue or other places that were mentioned here today. So I just wanted to clarify that. I hope everybody knows that we're not looking for a low-end business. It's 100% upscale, 100% clean. We look to make a business that is very similar to Global, but again, to compare, which is kind of hard to compare between us and Global because they're on a street that's an entrance into Burr Ridge. We're on an industrial street. There really aren't cars passing by that we expect to stop and say, hey, I'm interested in that car. 99% of our business we expect to be from online sales. So somebody goes online looking for a luxury car, they'll see it, they'll say, hey, I'm gonna drive to that lot. We'll have parking spots for them, they'll park, we'll get on Kingley Highway, drive the car, test drive it, and then go back and we go from there. So thank you again for considering us.
Yeah, hold on one second. Trustee Renzi, do you have a question of him?
Yes. So explain to me again the process of when you take in a used car, what happens to it?
So any used car that does not fit into the standards of the business, what I mean by that is if it's not a luxury car that we plan on reselling on the lot itself, we'd either take it to our other lot or put it in our storage building until an auction comes or until whatever we see fit. Because the lot itself and the building that we're on, let's say you guys only allow us to do indoor car sales, it's already tight enough as it is. And even if you allow us to do outdoor car sales, think about the image that that would give if we put an old used Toyota or Chevy on the lot. It wouldn't fit into our standards as a business.
Okay, so you take it in a trade, and then it gets shipped off immediately. It's not sitting on your lot, it's not stored in back, it's not behind a fence. Is that what you're saying?
100%.
Okay, so what if it doesn't meet your standards?
Our standards are 100% luxury cars. Now, what we mean by that is it could be like a 1970 Mercedes that's worth 50, 60, 70 mint condition car up to a $300,000 Lamborghini, for example.
So you said if a car doesn't meet their standards, it gets shipped away. What if it does meet your standards? What do you do with the car
If it does meet our standards?
Yes, but if it does meet your standards.
We'd keep it on the lot. We'd keep it as a car for sale within our business.
Outside?
Well, if you guys grant us to have it outside, yes. If there are limitations to, for example, if you grant us outside sales and there's restrictions to that, we'd be happy to abide by those restrictions 100%.
And would you, and if the inside sales was approved but not the outside sales, Do you still want to do it?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Thank you.
right, okay, we have a.
You asked my question, so I'm-
Trustee Model, anything?
No more questions.
Trustee Pepeza, anything else?
No.
Okay, Trustee Snyder?
You have a great week. Great week. Everyone, the online sales is just terrific. Received 6, 7 cars today.
Okay.
6 of the 7 don't meet your standards.
Okay.
You're the inside sales only. What do we do?
So I sold 6 to 7 luxury cars, and I received 6 to 7 cars I would not put on my lot.
So you still, so it's equal.
We'd send them to our storage lot and bring some of our luxury cars from our storage lot. Because we do plan, even if you allow us to do outside sales, inside and outside, we're thinking 50, 60, 70 cars. We still plan on having a storage lot, be it in Burridge or somewhere else. We haven't really found anything. We wanted to make sure this goes through first, because there's a lot of deals that come through sometimes on cars that you want to buy the car, and we don't want to lose out on the opportunity, so we put it in our storage lot. So that's going to kind of be our buffer zone where we, swap cars back and forth.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
99% of your sales will be online sales?
We don't expect, to be honest, my expectations, and this is honest to God truth, I don't expect a single person passing by on 83rd to stop on the lot and say, I'm interested in a car. I am pretty sure most of our sales, if not all, will be, customers will be attracted to our business, to our lot, will be through online sales.
Have you had previous experience with
Yes.
that business model?
Yes.
Was that the Villa Park one? or-
Villa Park and everybody that we know in the business. The dealership business is changing nowadays, and I'm sure everybody here can relate. When you look for a car, what's the first thing you do? Personally, I pick up my phone. Secondary, I'd go to my laptop. Most even car businesses on Ogden Avenue, Western Avenue, Roosevelt, wherever you go, these dealerships that have the biggest flags and tents and signs, a majority of the business that's given to those dealerships is brought there by online sales. That's why everybody's focusing on AutoTrader and Cars.com and their own websites.
So if you can put your business anywhere, why Burridge?
The upscale factor, that's the biggest thing for us. So we wanted somewhere where, close to highways, somewhere upscale, somewhere where, for example, if somebody looking for a $200,000 car would feel comfortable going. So we didn't want to go to, Western and, I don't know, Fullerton or something like that, or for that matter, Ogden Avenue, where there's a million other car dealerships, and, and so on and so forth.
Any other questions for him?
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question.
Okay, we have another resident that would like to say something, and that's, go ahead, Mark.
Mark Thomas, 7515 Drew. I'm just curious, is 83rd Street right now, is that a retail area where we can have retail businesses, or are we going to make it a retail corridor now?
It's not traditionally retail, no, it's industrial.
So this will be the first retail business?
There'll be a second one in that corporate park, no, third one, actually fourth one. But it will be.
Well, the other ones you're talking about are on the frontage.
You're talking about car dealers, but there have been other businesses in the Hinsdale Industrial Park. There's a music store.
Okay.
That was in the Hinsdale Industrial Park.
Also, the packaging store too. We bought from them for years. That was retail.
So there has been a mix of different types of uses as the world has evolved over the years.
So we are open to a retail business
Well,
coming in,
again,
as long as it's
this is a
indoors.
special use permit, so it's
Right.
reviewed, and if it's deemed to be appropriate, if the plan commission deemed it to be appropriate, then this is something the board would consider. We're not talking about, women's clothing stores there, as you
Well,
would
that's
see
what I was
in the
curious
village
about.
center. I mean, that's not what we're talking about, and nobody would want to be there if they were in that business, and the village wouldn't approve it if they did want to be there. That's not what we're talking about here. But, where do you put these types of car dealer types of things in today's world where there are internet sales and so forth? Well, we think the industrial area is the best place for it. We don't want it in our retail, we don't want it in the village center necessarily. And so we think this is, a good, it's compatible to the businesses that are located there. Obviously, they have to comply with all the rules and regulations that come with it. That goes without saying, but assuming that, I think they fit very well in this area.
And if they do have a lot of online business or selling cars out of state, out of county, do we still get the sales tax on that?
No, sir, we don't. That's all, that's not determined by us, that's determined by the state.
Okay. And then lastly, the one thing that concerns me the most is we were talking about if they step outside the bounds. You know, they have the cars out there, you know, who's bringing up how do we enforce that? And my understanding was this goes to traffic court. That's where these citations are dealt with, and there's not much of a bite that we can issue in regards to that. And two things come to mind. Actually, it was already brought up that Global Luxury Imports has had cars out on their front grass. And it's been more than one weekend, by the way, that they've done that. As well as they weren't going to do exterior service in regards to soliciting customers, bringing them in for service. But if you look in Hinsdale Magazine, they have an ad advertising for service of any vehicle. So there's two instances where we're not enforcing basically an ordinance that we've created specifically for someone that's come to the area. And you know, now, and actually I brought up the Hinsdale Magazine one time at a previous board meeting, and I believe Steve's answer to that was, well, they're one of our biggest tax revenue generators.
Well, on that subject, Mark, I do know that when that was brought to our attention, that on that one special promotional weekend they had some cars out. That was brought to their attention. They've been called on it, and I don't think that's going to be happening again. As far as the repair inside, my memory may not serve me correctly, but were they approved at a subsequent meeting for doing oil changes and things there?
I thought they were, Doug, yeah.
I'm going from memory here, but
Actually, at the last Plan Commission meeting, the Plan Commissioner said no, they were not. But
That question came up before, and I believe there is, I'd have to double check their ordinance, but I believe there was a provision that allows them to do limited service at Global Luxury Imports.
Indoors.
I'd have to look up the ordinance to tell you exactly
I believe
what
that
they're
was,
allowed to do.
it was maybe been 2-3 years ago, but I think
it's only for the cars that they sold.
well, Mark, how about if we look that up for you? And as a matter of fact, Mark, excuse me one second. When you have questions like this, why don't you just come to the board, come to the village hall ahead of time and find out. You're certainly welcome to do that anytime. The doors are always open. If you have any questions on this, please feel free to do that. You don't have to come to the board meetings to bring it up.
But right now we're talking about bringing another used car dealership into the area with similar circumstances. And
Well, to answer your question, you know, we
Similar
haven't
things may
received any
happen.
complaints. You know, the people in Carriageway who came out, you know, were concerned about this, we haven't heard from them. And they've been there over 2 years. So I guess and again, they are one of the top 10 sales tax generators in the village. And without that additional revenue, we'd be raising taxes some other way. So I guess I don't
agree.
understand the
We want
concern.
revenue. I
We could
understand that.
nitpick this thing, you know, to death. But the fact is that they're a good business in town, and if we need to make sure that they're doing the right thing, we will continue to do that. But I think everything they've done, even if you're talking about Mother's Day, they had some luxury cars out there, I'm sure they probably did it in a very classy way. Now, maybe they didn't realize that they maybe shouldn't be doing those types of things. And I'm sure on a Mother's Day, on a Sunday, most car dealers aren't open, so they're probably having a party of some type. We'll talk to them, okay? But it's not the end of the world, and we shouldn't say, well, because that is occurring, that maybe this business shouldn't be allowed in the village. And I would suggest that we are looking for sales tax generating businesses in this community. We need them. And again, I don't see the incompatibility of this type of business in this location.
No, I'm not
Do you
saying.
have any new information you'd like to add?
Mayor, I'd like to finish.
Please finish.
All right. So the fact of the matter is, I'm looking at enforcement. I mean, I understand that we want revenue generating businesses coming into the town. Steve, you brought it up at the budget meeting about how we need a substantial amount of income. So that's something I'm very concerned about. I'm just questioning whether used car dealerships are the best thing. As was said earlier, there's a lot of townships that will not allow used car dealerships at all.
I'm sorry,
And
we
here we
finished. I
have-
want to address that.
Here, we're going on our 4th dealership. And Guided, some of these are specialized dealerships. I can kind of understand that. And then we've put together ordinances to protect other used car dealerships from coming in here and whatnot. So I kind of have a problem with this and the quality of these dealerships. We set up quite a few ordinances to protect us with the global luxury imports, and I think that should be followed through with the other dealerships that come into the village, other used car dealerships that come into the village.
Hey, Mark, I'd like to address the one topic, actually, you probably don't know this, but my brother was a car dealer for 25 years. I actually called on car dealerships for a lot of years. I know the business. When I was 22 years old, I used to hang out at a luxury car dealership called BOMC Porsche in Manhattan Beach, California. I get it where a lot of people don't understand the business as well as someone like myself might, or other people that are in the business. But I've known some of the classiest people I know running some great businesses doing this. So that's probably why I'm not naturally more averse to it as you are, since that may not be your frame of reference, and I get that. Let me finish. Let me finish. And actually, I have one. And the other comment is, do you know why some cities won't allow these type of dealerships in their city?
Well, just I would imagine the quality of clientele they're bringing in and the quality of vehicles and their overall appearance.
Actually, if that was the reason, I'd be surprised, but maybe it is. A lot of cities like Countryside rely upon this retail business. And if they have 3, 4, 5 dealerships that generate hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars of sales tax revenue, they will upset those retail dealers. That's why they're not going to allow somebody with a used car dealership inside the dealership. I mean, it's really an economic decision. It has nothing to do with that aspect. Now, can it be? Yes. We've been very fortunate thus far, and we've had it's limited. We don't have any retail space, but retail car dealerships or new car dealerships. But to Steve's point, as a village, we also have to flex a little bit. Now, I know if Trustee Model had his choice, we'd be all industrial, because he's been a huge proponent of an industry throughout this state, throughout this country, to promoting industry in the United States. So, and we welcome those. We have how many industrial parks we have? 3, 4, 5?
At least 4, I think.
But occasionally, we don't govern it, but someone comes up and makes a request, and we're going to consider it. And that's what we're doing right now. Now, do you have any final comments?
Actually, the one comment I was going to make was a new dealership, a new car dealership. I'd be for that. I mean, I could see how that would really help the community, and but I don't know. These used car dealerships, they're just kind of squirreled away, and then now they're doing all their sales on the internet, and we may not be getting that much in return for the tax money.
And on the higher end, a lot of them are done out of the state. But on this range of vehicles, more of them are local. I know from personal experience, because someone will fly in from Florida to buy a $100,000, $200,000 car, but if the car is, assuming they're not going to be as expensive as Global, which by the way, Global is now a new car dealership.
Right.
They do have a new car franchise, and their Lotus. I happened to be in there the other day when Lotus came in, talking to them about possibly becoming a new car dealership there too. So sometimes those things germinate, sometimes they don't. But in any case, that's what they're looking at, and Do you have any additional information you'd like to add?
No, that would be it.
And please, I mentioned that, I welcome you. Please come to the village. You don't have to come up on the board meetings. If you have a question, give us a call.
Well,
And
usually
if
the
you wanna
questions
get on a-
come up after listening to.
Or if you want to get on a committee, I've been asking that for years too. You're welcome to serve.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have one quick,
We have,
one quick,
let me just have,
Yes.
we're going to have we have one more resident that's going to talk. Yes, sir?
Vijay Singh, and I've been here since '94, and I own a building on 83rd Street. And I'm not against the concerns which you brought up, retail or tax issue. The only thing I would request you for consideration is the image of that particular street. And I'm glad I'm not sitting there. You have to make a final decision. But the key is, I think that street, the way it has evolved over the last number of years, I bought building in 5 years ago. We transformed it. The whole street as you go through, it literally has become a gateway from west side to Burridge. A lot of traffic, I noticed that. And it has a tremendous amount of professional and corporate look. So, you're right. Industrial, you can have retail. It's the location. Location. The issue. And my request would be, before you make a choice, think of the image. Taxation is critical because I live here, and believe me, I worry about that too. So you have to create that balance. We who own buildings there have taken a tremendous amount of pride in trying to make it a beautiful corporate, but still a Burridge look in terms of greenery and everything else. That's one. Secondly, my concern would be, fortunately, unfortunately, we have some healthcare situation there. Some patients come, children with epilepsies and a bunch of other things. So we would like to make sure if we do anything there, the traffic is well managed. Because sometimes the ladies are bringing their families and children who are ADD, ADHD, or epileptic, and those issues. So don't want the people racing around on that particular road. So aesthetics is critical. And image of the village is a beautiful village we have. And I think if you look at, I think you have been here longer than I have. I think that particular street has evolved in some unique fashion the way it is. And ours is building up. I mean, some of you probably have seen it. And I think you have spent $500,000 plus to beautifying it. And I usually do it with my own hands in front. So that's my request would be. And I'm not against taxation. It makes sense, but which part of the industrial property really this thing belongs? That may be a point to consider. Thank
And
you.
one little note I'd just like to add is that if they did half of what you did to your building, I would be exuberant. VJ owns the building just to the west of this property. I don't know of any industrial building, corporate buildings. You can walk in there, it's marble, it's waterfalls. His wife's a doctor. He has a vested interest in having a good neighbor, and he has done great things. I wish they would all have that. And I appreciate your voicing your concern and opinion, and I know you know what it's like being in business.
Oh, believe me,
And-
that's what I'm saying. I'm glad I'm not there.
And-
And
yeah.
I really respect them too. I'm just expressing my concern. And once you come here, believe me, you will be in the same shoes I'm in. I love you. But it's a balance is very critical, I think.
And yeah, right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, now it's going back to the board for final discussion. Trustee Schiappa.
Are they making changes to the building? I mean,
Sure.
We don't plan on doing any structural changes, just landscaping in the front. We even offered to make a nice stone front in front of the part that we said might have cars behind it if you did approve a special outdoor use. As far as the building itself goes, we're removing a bunch of old pipes that are not even connected anymore, painting a lot around the windows and the trim of the building to kind of change the look and just update it and make it look a lot nicer than it does right now.
Don't go too
Yeah,
far.
and- Yeah, and this business is a tough business, and they have to see if it works well. I'm sure, I've never talked to them before, but I assume, it sounds like you've been in the business for a while. But if it.
And the inside too, if you don't mind me saying, actually, we plan on making the inside even a lot nicer than the outside. We do plan on putting granite marble floors, as mentioned, with our neighbor's building, VJ, and a lot of other things. I don't want to get into details to take up more time, but.
You met the sales tax issue. You mentioned selling. Some people were saying selling online. I was envisioning that people are going to search you online, but you're actually going to sell it in the village, and we'll probably collect most of your sales here. Am I incorrect in that assumption?
Yeah, if the resident is a resident of Illinois, the village would get some tax. If the resident is in DuPage, the village would get more tax. As far as out of Illinois, there are certain restrictions with various states. Some states, the resident has to go back and pay the tax on their own. Some states, we can collect the
Some are
tax.
reciprocal. There's
in which case
four
the-
states in the country that are reciprocal
Exactly.
with
I'm
Illinois.
familiar with that, but I was just thinking people were thinking that you were going to be selling it online. We would get no tax, but that's
No,
not the case.
we can't even do that, actually. It's illegal.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And I would, I've always thought whether there should be a delivery tax, if a Burr Ridge delivery tax, eventually we should incorporate for any non-Burr Ridge thing, so.
May I just interject right here?
I'm sorry, it's back to the board. So we're talking to the petitioner.
Objection to an eye on internet sale.
Well, to respond, I'm sorry, but to respond, internet sales, again, means a customer would find the car online, come to the dealership, which means customers could potentially be from DuPage or Illinois as well, which means the tax would go back to the village. Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Discussion? Trustee Francis?
Just a comment. To be crystal clear, we're talking about outdoor display of inventory as opposed to outdoor sales, meaning an outdoor sales, meaning a transaction taking outdoors.
Well,
That term's been interchanged, but what the Plan Commission talked about was outdoor display of inventory. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what they're recommending against.
Nothing outside.
As long as it's crystal clear.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
You ready for your motion?
Yes, sir.
So, I've served many years on the Economic Development Committee, and it's important to me, and when I ran for this position, it was important to me that we find ways to broaden our tax base that fit with the community of the village. So when I heard about this, I thought this is great. But I am cognizant of the residents' complaints and the issues, and having heard from the petitioners and looking at what the Planning Commission recommended, I would like to make a motion to approve the special use permit in line with what the Planning Commission has recommended, with one change, that being that we strike the value limits from their proposal. I think that those things, while, again, we mentioned a little trial period with global luxury imports, it was important that we did it right and moved carefully, but we've seen it's worked well. I have some concerns about restriction of trade with those value limits, and I also think that the business is largely self-limiting. I mean, you gentlemen are going to be paying a decent amount for that building, and given that I'm not making a motion to approve the outdoor use, you're going to have to sell a pretty high dollar value of cars out of that building to make your rent. You're not going to be in business very long. So I think your business itself, as well as the community that you're hoping to serve, is going to be self-limiting, in that we don't need to worry about these value limits. So that being said, again, I'd make the motion to recommend everything per the Planning Commission except striking the value limits.
Okay. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Zach, you were on the planning committee. When they went back and forth, or you went to development?
I was not at the Planning Committee. I was on the Economic Development Committee. We kicked this around as well.
Going back to Steve, when the board went through this, set up an outside or inside only ordinance, did the plan or discussion of having striking the limits of the vehicles ever come up in any of those meetings?
Well, I think in economic development, it came up as, why would we restrict trade? I think that was an issue that came up. But again, the Plan Commission is suggesting it here. They didn't suggest it the last time. So I know we're not being consistent there. We're being consistent with indoor sales. I think we're being very consistent with indoor sales. we haven't been consistent with this, with these restrictions. And so that was a question that staff had, and I think that's what you're making as part of your motion.
And I would second Zach's motion and also strike the limitations.
I'm sorry, you
I would second Zach's
motion.
motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Trustee Francis?
Yes, thank you. First point that I'd like to make is that 83rd Street, yes, it does get truck traffic, it does get industrial traffic, but it is also a gateway to our village from those residents on the west side of our village. So it is a gateway in a sense, just like County Line Road is, which also gets truck traffic and the heavy vehicular traffic as well. So that's why, thinking back to the Plan Commission meetings for global luxury imports, when it first came before the village, I was on the Plan Commission. The limitation on vehicle value was set in place at the recommendation of the petitioner initially, but then agreed to by the Plan Commission so that they would ensure that the vehicles would be of a high quality befitting Burr Ridge. So there was also a difference between 83rd Street and South Frontage Road. The two other car dealerships, Corvette Mike, and I can't remember the name of the new one that replaced Brand Max, they face Stevenson Expressway. They face South Frontage Road. This is a thoroughfare that serves the residents on the west end of the village. So there is a difference in that. I can see why the Plan Commission, I can understand why they didn't impose the same restriction on those two dealerships, but would impose it on a dealership on 83rd Street and would impose it on a dealership on County Line Road. So I understand why they did it, and I would agree with why they did it. Maybe we could make it a 2-year time period like we did for global luxury imports. And they can come back in 2 years, and if everything's fine, then they can petition to have it removed. But for now, I think we're embarking on new territory on 83rd Street, having a retail car dealership on 83rd Street, and an entryway to the village, that maybe we could compromise on having it for a time period, such as 2 years.
Thank you, Trustee Bethesda.
Well, I think what we have here is a problem with possibly setting a precedent, and I don't want to have somebody come back and said why we did it for one and we're not doing it for another, as far as when we're dealing with used cars, not putting the value added on. And I almost have to agree that I wouldn't like to strike it from the motion. I'd like to have that stay on for the 2 years, because we've done it for others, and I don't want to set a precedent and other people come in and start saying, well,
You did it for one, you didn't do it for the second.
Actually, we've done it for one out of 4 approvals so far. We put one restriction on one dealership, and that was Global Luxury Imports.
what was the one we didn't do it on?
We didn't do it on Brand Max, didn't do it on Corvette Mike, so we haven't done it on the
Well, Corvette
on the
Mike's
new one.
been here for quite a while. And the other one was, didn't they take over from another company?
No.
Thought they did.
They
Replaced one.
Pardon?
They replaced another company in the
They
same space.
replaced, right.
In the
Actually-
same space.
Right.
They actually went out of
What's
business.
the name of the company that just moved in?
We have approved, I believe, 5 dealerships. Global Luxury Imports, and they're the only ones that had the minimum values. At 60 Shore Drive, we've approved 3 over the years. Corvette Mike, Brand Max, and Brand Max went out of business. They've been replaced by Midwest Auto, I believe is
Midwest Auto,
what they're
that's it.
calling themselves. Those 3 did not have the value added. There's a 5th one that was approved, different zoning though, and that's Burr Ridge Car Care. And they are allowed to sell automobiles
Oh, on Frontage Road?
on the frontage road. And they have no value, minimum value as a
Right about
condition of
That's
their.
right in the gateway. You come by them first, don't you?
Right. And I know, yeah, that's why we're here to debate the pros and cons of it all, but I think cars are pretty visible from I-55 too. But they all have, actually, the one suggestion I know that BJ made was having a welcome to Burr Ridge sign somewhere on 83rd Street. I forgot to mention that. That would be a
We
decent
have a
one.
secondary gateway sign right at the frontage road and Route 83. That's where our sign is, but that became a secondary gateway.
And
Years or so, that bond issue expires, and I've already suggested that maybe a goal in the strategic planning would be maybe to consider phase 2, and that could be part of that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, there's been a motion, there's been a second.
Would there be any consideration by the person that made the motion and the person that seconded to have that statement on value limited for 2 years? Amend the motion as a compromise?
I'm not opposed to amending the motion as that compromise. Again, as I said earlier, I'm not quite sure that if it were challenged in court, it would be found legal, that it's a restriction of trade. I also, on principle, find it to be a bit of an overreach for the local government to be in doing this, but I would, if that was what would get it to move forward here, I haven't heard from a few other trustees. I was curious what your opinions were as the motion is right now. But, if necessary, we could amend it.
Who seconded it? Okay.
I'm open for consideration, but again, the restriction type scenario.
Oh, okay. Trustee Schiappa?
Well, I agree, 83rd is a thoroughfare, but it is changing. I live close to there. I'm on 83rd Street 3 to 4 times a day. There's a canine club. There's a physician there. There's the Popcorn Palace, which has retail services as well. So I understand that it's changing a little bit, and I struggle with the value considerations, and but I can see putting in a time limit just to see what type of operation they run. Brand Max did open and close, and so it's just something as a test to ensure that they can run a solid business. I saw the business plan, and I hope the best for them, and I hope they do well.
Okay. Anyone else?
I kind of echo what Tony said. That area is a very sleepy area, and one of my biggest concerns is because Gower Middle is there are tons of kids that walk to school and back, and I just feel that cars zooming past or being test-driven in that area would be a distraction for them, and I am kind of concerned about their safety as well. In the evenings, because I live right there, you see so many people running and walking on those streets or biking, and I don't know if it will lend itself to, retail, which is where people are using the streets. So that's my concern.
So thank you. Hearing from the trustees, I would be willing to amend my motion to include a 2-year limit of the restriction on value. I think that's what it's going to take to move this thing forward here, so I'd be willing to do that. I'm, again, fundamentally opposed to it, but it sounds like the petitioners could abide by that and could have a fundamentally...
Talk about 2 years and then a review.
Or a sunset.
Well,
Review like global luxury.
And it would have to get a thumbs up or down at that point in time, and we could remove it at that point in time.
Right, but we'd have to take action. It wouldn't automatically sunset.
Wouldn't automatically sunset. So I would amend my motion if Trustee Snyder...
You're basically saying amending your motion to just go along with the planning commission
accepting the planning commission's recommendation.
As
I think
written.
that'll build some more support from my fellow trustees.
Okay. There's been a motion.
Second.
There's been a second again. Any discussion?
One more final comment. I think we all want the same thing here. We want a successful business to come in. We want them to flourish in our village. We want them to serve our residents. But we also, at the same time, we want to protect our residents. And this 2-year period for the value of the cars will help to protect the residents. I'm sure they'll be a great corporate neighbor. They'll do a great job. They're going to have high-quality inventory, and they're going to exceed our expectations. I'm confident of that. But just in case, we have had one bad apple car dealership in here before, and we didn't take the necessary steps to protect our residents. So,
And I think in the spirit of camaraderie, certainly that was very, very nice of you gentlemen, to trustees to do that. I would just like to caution from a village's standpoint, we don't want to send out the impression to retail businesses that we want to restrict trade or control how expensive the donuts are at Kirsten's or anything else. So it's a fine line. I get it.
I agree with you.
I get it, but that's a real fine line. But in the spirit of trying to keep up the image of Ridge, and I get it. But in the spirit of teamwork, I respect certainly your amending that and staying with the recommendations from the Planning Commission. Now, there's been a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Model?
Aye.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Scalpa?
Yes.
Trustee Mitel?
No.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-1.
Motion passes 5-1. Okay, under considerations 5B, consideration of the Plan Commission recommendation to forego an amendment to zoning ordinance permitting additional rear lot coverage when using permeable pavement systems. I didn't have a chance to talk to everybody, but I spoke with staff. I spoke with Chairman Schupek of the Plan Commission, and in view of knowing some of the facts but not all the facts, and wanting to encourage environmental friendly type of systems like permeable bricks, Chairman Schupek has asked me to said it, quote was, if the board sees fit to remand the issue back to the Planning Commission, I believe it may be beneficial to consider the broader implications of the use of permeable paver systems. So I'm going to recommend this be remanded back to the Planning Commission per his suggestion of the agreement, and that this be looked into further. Questions?
Specifically, what will the Plan Commission be looking at again?
The overall impact of permeable paver systems. He actually suggested that bring somebody in from Unilock, find out some of the pros and cons of it, and see if there's a tremendous amount of. This is not a new concept. A lot of villages are doing it. The county is encouraging it. To look into it further before we make any blankets like this or requirements. To look into it further and then come back to us with a recommendation.
Has the staff of the village engineer uncovered any new additional information since the Plan Commission last talked about this?
No.
Or is there any new additional information out there that needs to be uncovered?
Well, I guess what I've heard is that the Plan Commission didn't really solicit input from private businesses that are in the business, that are in the industry, to get their take on it. Obviously, they're going to be very pro, but apparently, according to what I'm hearing from the mayor, is that he would like to hear at least some of those comments and have them make a presentation, and at least have the Plan Commission hear it to see if they would hear anything that might change their mind associated with this. Obviously, there's two strong recommendations at the moment from both the Plan Commission and the Stormwater Committee to oppose the use of this to allow for additional lot coverage. Certainly, nobody's suggesting that you shouldn't be able to use this for environmental purposes and those types of things, but the specific charge to the Plan Commission was, well, can we allow additional lot coverage and be able to do that by putting in these permeable pavers? So I mean, I think we've heard already what their position is, but I think what is being suggested is that maybe they need a little more information from the people in the industry to see if that might enlighten them or change their strong opinion at this point.
Would it also go back to the Stormwater Committee?
Well, it could, although the Stormwater Committee doesn't meet for a longer period of time, although I don't know what the hurry is necessarily.
Yeah, there's certainly no one's applying for anything anyway. There's no advocate.
Nothing
but
pending, right?
What's that?
There's nothing pending.
No.
No, and what we could do is suggest that when this is discussed at the Plan Commission, that we invite the members of the Stormwater Committee to attend that meeting, so it doesn't have to happen twice. And that's a way to do it, but we could certainly still put this on the next agenda, which is what, July? Or No, I'm talking about stormwater, Dave.
August.
August, yeah, so this might not come before you then until sometime in end of August.
Well, I don't think Plan Commission's gonna get all that information that quick,
Anyway.
to be able to present it to us. I know I was involved with a meeting and, there was a lot of discussion about it. There's a lot of people that say these permeable pavers do a good job, but also people say that once, 3 to 5 years, once they get dirty, once they get rained on enough, the pores start filling up and they're not as effective as they were when they were new. So I agree we need more information, and I'd like to make the motion to put it back to the Plan Commission.
Okay,
Second.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Beza?
Yes.
Trustee Scalpa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Mattel?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
No.
5-1.
Okay, C, presentation regarding 2017 schedule of summer events.
Okay, I just have a little quick slideshow here, and I promise to be brief. And don't we all agree that no matter what the cost of the donuts are at Kirsten's, they're worth it, right? So if she goes up or down, we're going to pay it
Yes,
because
they
they're
are.
just that good. So, okay.
Uh-oh, no. Janet, I'm doing it. Are you doing something there?
No.
It says Janet is working on it. Do you want to open read-only copy? Yes, I do.
No, it's under,
Okay, well, you
Board
must
meeting
still have it on
items?
your computer. That's probably why it said that. You're set to go.
okay. We have upcoming 2 5Ks this summer. The first one is the Run the Ridge. This is the 13th year in a row that they've been doing the Run the Ridge, and that will be on Saturday, June 3rd. Tends to get bigger and bigger every year, and again, they donate the proceeds to Proactive Kids, which is an organization that helps families and children combat obesity, teaching them healthy habits, eating habits, get up and move kind of thing for the entire family. We also have coming up, and I think this is just in conjunction with all the car talk tonight, the 10th annual car show. And that will be at the Village Center, be on the Village Green. By the time we're finished, we usually have about 150 cars, both antique and new. And one of the funnest things about that is we get to do what's called the People's Choice Award. So the people actually get to walk around and vote for what they like, whether it's new or old, and the kids really get into it. Everybody has a good time. We're going to do something a little different this year. Instead of a band, we're having a DJ. And we're going to have the DJ spin some of the old 50s and 60s tunes, talk about the village, talk about some of the cars, talk about what's going on in conjunction with it. There will be a kids' chalk art festival going on, sidewalk sales going on, that kind of thing. So it really does tie in the businesses. The whole point of these events is to bring the community together and also bring some more people out to the businesses to get involved. And the businesses do. They appreciate the efforts that we make for this. So mark that on your calendars if you're a car person for Sunday, June 11th. There'll be concessions there as well. And it's just usually, if we get a really good weather day, it's a really nice day. Now, talk about the evenings. We have the concerts on the green coming up. We have 10 this year. Again, we have a variety of music, everything from rockabilly to jazz to 60s and 70s covers, that kind of thing. So there should be something there for everyone. A lot of sponsors coming in. They're all sponsored except for 3, and I have 4 companies looking at them right now. So it's going to be first come, first serve who gets in there on the sponsorship. They start at 7, 8 at N30, and we always hope to try to clear that green by 9:30 because although the residents are very kind and they allow us to have these concerts, they'd like to sleep at night too, so we try to get them out of there. in time. So mark that for your Friday nights. And then we have the Run for Veterans 5K Run Walk. This will be the 4th year. And this is one of these events that I tell the organizers, whenever you start a new event, you have to give it a while. 3 years. Just like planting a perennial, creep, crawl, sprawl. So we did see a whole lot more participants in the run last year. I'm anxious to see what it's going to look like this year. And the proceeds from this run benefits veterans, a lot of veterans health services that they offer, and they also make a nice donation to the Veterans Memorial Committee here every year, just kind of as a thank you for allowing them to come to Burr Ridge and host us. So that's what's going on this summer. There's going to be everything to get the community together, the business together, and also the park districts are hosting things. I know that there will be the typical fireworks show by the Pleasantdale Park District, and Burr Ridge Park District has tons of things going on. And even the Village Center with the management company there, they're tending to do a little bit more of their own events right there that are on a smaller scale to bring people into Burr Ridge and to get them into the businesses. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I didn't see when you had it up there, the concerts start, what, Friday the 16th?
Concerts start June 16th, and they will go through August 25th. We pushed it back just a little because within the last few years, we were finding it was still pretty cold. Those first 2 weeks of June were not much fun. And up there on your way out, there is a flyer that has the full docket of all the bands. And there's also a car show flyer, and there's a Run the Ridge brochure. So you've had experience with this.
Trustee Francis.
Just a comment, thank you for organizing a great series of events that benefit our residents and the businesses in our village, and also bring many people from outside the village into our village to enjoy the many amenities that we have to offer here.
Thank you. It's a good collaborative effort between the village, the park districts, and the village center. And
absolutely,
we all just work very well together to make it enjoyable as much as we can.
Trustee Mattel.
I have to congratulate you. It is something very awesome, which Hinsdale and Oakbrook don't do, and Burr Ridge does very well at. So congratulations.
It's a very special place, so we want to keep it that way.
And you're very special, too.
Mr. Rogers.
Thanks, Jan. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Neighborhood.
Thank you. Okay, under other considerations for announcement, deliberation, or discussion, any items? Residents' comments? Anyone else? Reports, communications from village officials? Is there something else that we, no, I'm sorry, yes. Yes,
thank you.
That was one.
I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce our new assistant to the administrator, Evan Walter. Evan will begin work with the village on Tuesday, May 30th, a week from tomorrow. Evan comes to us from the city of Elgin, where he's been a management analyst with the village manager or city managers and Department of Public Works offices. Evan is a graduate of Northern Illinois University with a master's in public administration and a master of arts in political science. He comes from the Cleveland area, western suburbs of Cleveland, and an Indians fan, but hired him anyway. And is a graduate of Thiel College in Western Pennsylvania. Evan lives in Westmont with his wife Kim and daughter Nora, 2-month-old daughter, right? So he will, as I said, begin working for the village a week from tomorrow, and I'm very excited to have him. And please go out of your way to welcome him, as I know you always do. Thank you.
Well, Doug, he won't get any FaceTime unless you ask him to come to the microphone. So would you, could you ask him to come to the microphone? And this course he's probably like a deer in the headlights right now, but I would like to just recognize you and welcome you to the village. I'm sure we all would like to do so, and if you'd like to say something, you're welcome to.
No, I appreciate it. I've been getting to know the staff over my visits, kind of doing pre-employment paperwork over the past couple weeks. As Doug said, I live in Westmont while my wife's from Downers Grove, so we're pretty familiar with the area. we know about, I used to go to church in Burridge here, so know a lot about the village, and I'm looking forward to really building on the progress that everyone has made in the village, working toward it, protecting the village, and just advancing really the special character, the special ethos that is pretty clear and apparent when you come to the village. It's pretty obvious once you cross that highway where you're at. So I just look forward to meeting and working with all of you in the coming years, and I appreciate your all welcoming me so friendly-wise.
And you shortened your commute.
Yes, my commute here was about an hour and a half today.
Yeah.
And my commute home will be about 10 minutes, so I don't think that wasn't a factor when I thought about it.
Well, let's give that a round of applause. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. Welcome. Anyone else? Okay, non-residents?
Good evening. My name is Dolores Cizek. I'm a former 14-year trustee. First, I would like to commend and compliment the village on the program that they had last Saturday. Despite the really crappy weather, it was a very good program. The turnout was a little bit low because of the weather, and it was disappointing that I didn't see any of the present trustees at the program. I can understand a family emergency, but I'm sure not everyone had a family emergency. I'd like to comment briefly about the man who received the Patriot Award, Mr. Ulrich. And he commented about getting lost in the forest at 18 years old in the Battle of the Bulge. Now, my husband had a relative by marriage, and the Battle of the Bulge was in the wintertime, and the temperatures were very severe. My husband had a relative who was a tank commander, and he was in the Battle of the Bulge, and he said they had to run the tanks all night because it was so cold. If they turned them off, they would never get them started in the morning. So that really was a very rough 6-week period. I also would like to comment on the West Suburban Concert Band, which I think is just terrific. And their next concert will be just this coming Wednesday in LaGrange Park. And that's right along LaGrange Road, just north of Phillips Flowers. I think they do a terrific job, and the concerts are free. Now, getting to the meat of my remarks, I made a mistake. At the last board meeting, I said that the village was spending $89,590 on landscape maintenance. The mistake was that it was a good deal more than that, because I reviewed the minutes of the March 27th meeting, and they awarded a landscape contract to DeCitero Landscaping for almost $102,000. Now, if you add on the $8,000 that goes to marine biochemists for the aquatic weed control, which I consider part of the landscape program, the whole thing comes to $109,917. And that is over $2,100 per week. That's one of the things that this board needs to address, is reducing expenses. When I was on the board, I tried to convince this board to object to online sales being without sales tax. Sales tax is a very big revenue producer for municipalities. 5 or 10 years down the road, the retail market, you can see that. We were in the retail business over 40 years in Hinsdale. J.C. Penney, Sears, Macy's. Macy's wants to sell about 4 floors of its State Street store. Kmart, they're shrinking. And so will your revenue. Now, it seems to me that this village needs to watch their expenses. For example, look at 8H on tonight's agenda. Almost $52,000 in an interest payment. And I think that's for the beautification of this intersection right out here. Was that beautification really necessary? Look at the debt that you incurred doing this. Also, look at 8F, the 7 AR carbines. Isn't that a military gun? Couldn't that expense, I don't know what the total cost is, but it's not only the weapon, but it's associated equipment. Couldn't that have been spread over 2 years? 3 1 year, 4 the next year? I can't mention enough that the brick and mortar sector of the economy is going to undergo terrific changes. You see it every day. And you're going to lose the revenue. So you can't just keep taxing and taxing. You have to reduce your expenses. Some of you think I have a lot of gall. Well, I have gallstones. So I may miss a few meetings because I have to undergo a procedure. But I'm sure you won't miss me. But I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. Trustee Snyder.
Nothing. Mickey?
Trustee Beveza?
I just want to make a comment. Dolores comes up here and she picks out things out of our budget to complain about. I served on the board with Dolores for a lot of years, and she was a very good trustee, and often I could not understand where the hell she got all her information from, but she did. But also, being on the board back then, being on the board now, I realize things change, topics change, people's attitude changes. There are a lot of changes in the budgets and what we vote on. You might not like it, but these 6 trustees and the mayor have to answer to the people at the current time. And they are the ones that dictate what we do. We don't just pull these numbers out of our head. And for you to pick on certain items, I don't think is right when you don't know the background and the detail and the time we've spent in coming forward with these numbers. Just like you're arguing about our landscaping. People want the village to look sharp, and we have to do things like that. Plus, most of this stuff is picked up by the hotel motel tax fund, isn't picked up by the village. So there's a lot of things when you come up and sort of drop innuendos like we don't know what we're doing, I have to disagree with you.
One thing too, Dolores.
No, excuse me, this is not a time for responding back and forth. If you
can respond after the meeting's over, Dolores.
You respond after the meeting's over.
I'm going to just follow up with Trustee Pavesa.
I want to respond to what Al said.
Dolores, because we're going to miss you for a couple
Well, Al
weeks.
said
We're going to miss you for a couple weeks, for a couple meetings. I will let you have 1 minute. How's that?
I can say it in 1 minute.
Okay.
What Al says is, first of all, this village had a much higher hotel motel tax rate than Willowbrook for many years. And any corporation takes into account the taxes of what they're being charged. You have to be competitive. You weren't competitive in that area at all. The point is, the retail market will not be recognized in 5 years. There'll be very little brick and mortar, and it will be, I would say, 75–80% online. It's more convenient and it's tax-free.
And thank you, Dolores. That is a prediction that I think we're seeing come to fruition. I've always appreciated when you mentioned that. Okay.
One question for Dolores. Dolores, you're a non-resident, but you were on the board as a trustee before. Where you live now is LaGrange, correct? No,
Let's not. Let's no. Let's.
you live in LaGrange, correct?
Yes.
It's fine.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does live in LaGrange, but it's not. We're not meant to go back and forth like this.
No, I'm just curious.
I'm sorry. I know we kind of opened it up, but we do appreciate her opinion, and we hope she has a quick recovery. Other motion? Yes, sir.
Just want to concur with Trustee Baveza. There are a lot of facts behind these decisions that are made. They're not transparent. Certainly, they can be made transparent if someone desires, but there's a lot of information that goes beyond what you see here on the agenda. And also, so I don't appreciate the shots that are taken at some of the trustees for the decisions that are made. And also a shot taken at some of the trustees because they didn't show up for the Armed Forces celebration. I can't speak for the rest of the trustees. I'm sure they had their reasons why they weren't able to attend. But did I want to drag my 97-year-old World War II veteran father out in the cold and in the rain and in the wind to attend the celebration? I don't think he would have enjoyed that. He's attended the celebration in the past and appreciated it very much. But on that day, instead of taking him out in that weather, I chose to visit with him instead. So please don't assume the worst of this board. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, okay? Thank you.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Scappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Maytel?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yep.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Meeting adjourned.